Beloved, I have a question for you this morning, and it's this. How is it with your soul? How is it with your soul? I've been involved with spiritual support groups. Some people call them soul friends. And that's the question that we usually ask to start our groups. How is it with your soul? Now, on good days, I can answer like the old hymn says, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul, it is well. And that's a good day. Or there are days where I feel like Mother Pollard. She's someone that I want to bring forward to your consciousness. She was a beloved community elder who was part of the Montgomery bus boycotts of the 1950s. And she was already well into her years when the boycott began to protest the policy of racial segregation on the public transportation system. And as Dr. Martin Luther King recounted, after several weeks of walking to her destinations, rather than taking the bus, which would have been so much easier, Mother Pollard was asked if she was tired. Mother Pollard, are you tired? And she replied, my feet is tired, but my soul is rested. So how is it with your soul? I know for me, I want to say, it is well with my soul, it is well. I want to be able to say, like Mother Pollard, my soul is rested. But if I'm truthful, and I have to be with you all, I'm really identifying more with Jesus of Nazareth in the days before he was crucified, when he said, now is my soul troubled. Now is my soul troubled. And I bet if you are honest, your soul is troubled too. How can it not be troubled when we are surrounded by an arena of viruses, one being biological, but the rest being created by human hands? Just this week, COVID-19 has taken over 200,000 lives. Wrap your mind around it. 200,000 lives. In the CSRA, we have roughly 350,000 people living in the greater area. Imagine neighborhoods vanished. 200,000 people gone. COVID-19 has taken away our way of life and our way of viewing life itself. But COVID-19 has also unveiled a disturbing lack of empathy for the dead and for their families, saying, you know, it's okay, 200,000, not so much. They were old, they would have died anyway. Or maybe they were people of color. Or maybe they had underlying health conditions. As if that matters, as if that makes a difference. And when I hear such remarks, I have to say, now my soul is troubled. My soul is troubled. A vaccine can make us safe, but it cannot save us from the other kind of viruses out there, like the lack of empathy. A vaccine can help, but it cannot save us from the virus of racism. Racism has always been with us, but it's been unveiled in a new way this year. And then there's the virus of divisiveness, unlike anything I've seen in my life. Our beloved presiding Bishop Michael Curry has said that this virus has shown us just how self-centered we've become. Curry said we have a mindset of it's my way or the highway. And it does not have to be that way, not when we walk in the way of love and in the way of Jesus. Now, this past week, there have been a lot of stories, great stories, about the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But there's one I love in particular because it harkens back to her deep friendship with her fellow justice on the Supreme Court, Anthony Scalia. They shared a love of opera, and they would go out together with their spouses to see the latest offerings, or they would cook dinner for each other, have dinner parties in their homes. And Scalia once said this. He said, "Call us the odd couple. She likes opera, and she's a very nice person. What's not to like, except her views on the law?" Despite that, they were such close friends. That's what I want us to reclaim. We don't know how to talk anymore, and more importantly, we don't know how to listen anymore to those whose views differ from us. We should be able to say to those who differ from us what's not to like, except their views on politics, but what's not to like. And when I see that kind of divisiveness, I have to say, now my soul is troubled. It's troubled. "Now my soul is troubled" is a quote from Jesus found in John's Gospel. But that's only part of a quote. And if you look at it in context, there's no period at the end. Instead, depending on what version of the Bible you're using, there's a comma after that, meaning the sentence isn't finished. There's more to be said. There's more to be done. When Jesus said, "Now my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? No, it is for this reason I have come to this hour. Father, glorify your name." And then a voice came from heaven saying, "I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again." Eugene Peterson put it this way: "Right now I am storm-tossed, and what am I going to say? Father, get me out of this? No. This is why I came in the first place. I'll say, Father, put your glory on display." I love that phrase. Father, put your glory on display. And that changes everything, because Jesus of Nazareth changes everything. Beloved, this is the time that matters. This is the time when we must allow God's glory to be displayed. Remember that old saying that the light shines brightest in the darkness, and I know it's dark. This is a time to let God's Shekinah glory be on full display. And I know that I can get so immersed in how I'm feeling. And I know I'm the only one in this room that does that. But I can get so immersed in how I'm feeling that I forget to see what God is doing. What God is doing. And what God is doing is using this troubled and troubling time to display God's glory. And the Holy One is doing it through you and through me. You and I, these fragile earthen vessels. St. Paul said, "But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of God and not of us." And what I love is that he wrote this to one of the most dysfunctional churches ever, the church in Corinth. Now, we pick up a lot of beautiful things from the letter to the Corinthians, but it was a dysfunctional church. It was consumed with power struggles. It was consumed with trying to remake God in their own image. And doesn't that sound a little bit like our world today? A dysfunctional world? Now, Paul could have washed his hands of that church and walked away. But then he stopped, and he looked at them with the eyes of love, and he saw how God could work through them as fragile earthen vessels where God's glory could shine out the brighter. Or as Paul said to the church in Philippi, "Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God at work in you." And I look at you and I see God at work in you. I see Dave Blake, who every morning posts where we are in this strange season of COVID-19. God is at work in you, Dave, keeping us safe, helping us to know what's safe, what's not. I see Liz Hahn teaching in such desperate circumstances, and Steve Hahn doing the same. And I see the three little Hans who have to troop off to school wearing masks, but God is working through you just by the fact you're showing up. Catherine and Michael and Liam, God is working through you. I see Brad Green and Jeanette and Bill, and I know you all have shown up this summer for a protest against racial inequality. You have stood up for anti-racism. God is working through you. Now, I know this may not sound like a lot, but this is how God works in these fragile earthen vessels. Beloved, that is the power of God and the power of love and love in action. I see my beloved sister here who shows the power of love in prisons. In this fragile earthen vessel, she makes sure that those behind bars are not forgotten. That is God at work. And this kind of love is sacrificial. This kind of love is giving, and this kind of love is healing. Love looks for all the ways that we can come together rather than come apart at the seams. And love knows it can change the world. It really can. In a recent interview, this is what Bishop Curry had to say about love. He said, "I'm here to say there's power in the kind of love that is unselfish, even sacrificial, that seeks the good and well-being of others, as well as the enormous, untapped power in that kind of love that can help both to give us hope in troubling times and to help us find our way and navigate our way through." And Curry said, Jesus said the supreme law is the law of love. And he was very clear about that. Go back to Matthew 22. There can be no debate about that. The New Testament was absolutely clear about that. To love God and love the neighbor, that is the will that God calls for. Beloved, when I live into those words, when I see your faces and your actions in the world, my soul feels lighter. It feels happier. It can begin to rejoice because I see God glorified in you just being you. That's music to my soul. And when, not if, but when we walk the way of Jesus in the way of love, then we can answer the question, how is it with your soul? And we can answer it like Mother Pollard. My feet is tired, but my soul is rested. Or for this old person, my knees are shot, but my soul is rested. How is it with your soul? It is well with my soul, because I walk the way of Jesus in love and showcase the love of Jesus no matter what. Beloved, what shall we say? Father, save us from this hour? No, it's for this reason that you and I have come to this hour, so that the Father may be glorified in a dark world that desperately needs to see a way forward, that needs to see the light. And we are the light of Jesus Christ in his love. Amen.